Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Uxcel office hours, where we basically show you the best ways to use Uxcel. My name is Sofia. I am the community manager here and your host today. In the next 45 minutes, we'll be tackling a common pain point for many cross functional teams, and that is basically misalignment between product and design. So today, to fix that misalignment, we will show you how to use our skill graph, basically a tool to build help to help PMs and designers understand team strengths, spot gaps easily, and to build a smarter growth plan together. So to walk us through it, we've got Lazar here. He's our product marketing manager, and if you know Lazar, he's all about practical takeaways. So today he will show you actually real examples of how you can use Skill Graph to drive better collaboration and team performance. Welcome, Lazar.
Hey, welcome.
Before we jump in, a quick note from my side is that this is a live session. So say hi in the chat and tell us, have you tried UXL with your team, or is this your first time seeing how it works together? And we have saved last 15 minutes of the session for a Q&A. So whenever you feel like it, post your questions in the chat and we will try our best to get to all of them in that dedicated time slot. And without further ado, let's dive in. Lazar, you have prepared a demo for us. So let's get your screen here.
Awesome. So before we actually jump into sharing the demo, giving the tips and everything, what I want to share is, and mainly you as our beloved users and customers have seen that we're preparing quite a big launch, which is product management learning experience and AI courses. So the reason why UXL made for why we kind of opted in to go with this bold move was we identified kind of like a big problem that happens within design teams, right? So what we usually see is that there is a big disconnect and big gap between product teams, design teams, and engineering teams on the third end. What usually happens is that every team has its own platform to learn. For example, if you're an engineer, you're using Codecademy, DataCamp, or any different platforms, maybe even some other boot camps, depending on what is your time availability. On the second end, you have product managers that are using specific platforms to learn PM related topics that will help them propel. Then you have designers that are using, for example, Uxcel or any different platform that focuses specifically on UX. So everyone is kind of working in different silos, but what mainly happens with work is that work happens in collaboration. So instead of you being specifically focusing on your fields, which of course you should do if you want to become a specialist, from modern designers and product managers, it is now expected to go way beyond their specific roles. So if you want to become the most valuable designer in the room and in your company, yes, you still need to master your craft. You need to push amazing design, but ultimately, you will become the most valuable person in the room once you actually know how to communicate your design through business, how you can understand the impact of your design on business metrics, how you can translate design into specific product requirements, or even shipping your own features while still leading all design efforts that you have. If you're a product manager, imagine that you also understand design so you can easily work on some specific feature or product and then work closely with designers on truly understanding how design can be even more impactful to make sure that that feature or product adoption is above every possible benchmark that you have. And what we know so far is yes, everyone was learning in silos, but now it's actually time to learn the way you actually work, which is to be fully in sync with your peers from different departments that you're closely working with. And now what I'm going to share is some basically sneak peek of what we are introducing with the upcoming release that is technically happening next week. So I'll share more details later. But ultimately, what you have used, or maybe what you haven't used on Uxcel so far, is the skill map. So if you didn't know, while completing any specific lesson or course or any learning material that is present on Uxcel, your skill graph is being automatically mapped out. So at any given time, you can see where you're good at or what skills you might be missing on. So for example, what you can see from my profile is that I may not be that good in user research. So what I can do is that I can just click on user research and see what are the learning materials that are only focused on user research. So I can prepare a plan for myself. I want to improve my user research skills in the next 3 months. These are the specific learning materials that I want to focus on so I can improve these. So I can, for example, improve user research as my skill. And this is fine if I want to become a well-rounded designer. But if you're working in a team and you want to get embedded into the product team, so because you're closely working with, what you will be able to do from next week is that with a single click, you can change the learning experience to product management. And then as a designer, you will be able to see how your product skills look like. So imagine yourself working closely with the engineering team as a part of your company procedure. You have your design skill graph, so you know what are the core skills where you're good at. But ultimately, because you're closely working with the engineering team or with developers, besides your design skill, you can improve your product development skills and technical proficiency. Or if you're a designer that is working at some data analytics tool, besides having your core skills as a designer, you will be able to develop your data analytics skills. If you're closely working with C-level executives or leaders or VP and C-level suite, what you can do is that you can also develop stakeholder management skills, business strategies. So you can kind of create a unique use case for yourself, so you can become the most valuable person in the room. And this goes vice versa. When you create an account on Uxcel, what you will be able to do is that you can choose whether you want to have UX learning experience or PM learning experience. If you choose that PM learning experience will be your core learning experience, your core skill graph will be product management. And if you're a product manager, you can just switch and change the learning experience to UX. So as a product manager, you will be able to understand how good you are in specific design skills. So think of yourself as a product manager who can be awesome in user research, visual design, and content strategy. So this will give you more leverage into how you can work with your teams how you can work with your teams way better and how you can even contribute to your role even better, because ultimately specialists are there to climb to this specific career ladder. If you want to tap into leadership, if you want to grow your career even further, what you will be able to do is that you can truly understand how you can tap into these cross-department skills so you can make sure that you are contributing to the projects that you truly want to work on. And this is fine for you if you're using Uxcel individually, because you will get a clarity of where your core skills currently stand and what are the cross-department skills that you can build throughout your journey with Uxcel. And simply how does this work is that the initial skill mapping comes with Uxcel Pulse. So anytime you complete the Uxcel, by the time you complete Uxcel Pulse, your skills will be automatically mapped out. So for example, you can see attempt 1, UX, and then attempt 6 was PM. When you do the pulse assessment for product managers, you will see what are your strengths, what are your skill gaps, what are your recommended learning lessons, so you can slowly turn skill gaps and the skills that you may be lacking based on your role into actual strengths. And then what you will be able to see is how your skills are actually improving, or even you can go a bit deeper and understand what are the answers that you did not answer correctly, so you can make sure that you develop specific sub skills. So for example, this specific question was focused on QA testing, even though that the QA testing is not present in the core skill category for PM. What you know is that you as a product manager need to understand a bit of QA testing so you can actually collaborate closely with your QA team in order to understand how you can minimize the bugs within your product and how to make sure that the product is delivering the core value for your users at the very end. And this is basically just the beginning. In case you didn't know, what we have is that we have a separate module of Uxcel called Uxcel Teams. So everything that you've seen so far in Uxcel is awesome. You have learning experience, you have courses to acquire new skills, you have assessment to test new skills, you have project briefs to put your newly acquired skills to practice, and then you have certifications to kind of cement the knowledge that you acquired so far. But Uxcel Teams goes way further than what you actually see on Uxcel. So I have shown you the skill graph and how skill graph looks for one individual person, for example, you or your team member or anyone else that is using the platform. But what if you actually have an entire snapshot of your team? So for example, this is our Uxcel organization. And what you can see here is that we can see how our team stands with specific skills. So again, with a single click, I will be able to identify how Uxcel stands in product skills and how Uxcel stands in specific design skills, right? So I can, for example, understand Nadia as our teammate, how good she is in design, and as a designer, how good she is in specific product skills, right? And for example, one example could be myself. You can see like how my design skills look like, and at the same time how my product skills look like, right? So what does Uxcel Teams actually give you in terms of capabilities is that not only you can track the skills in the entire organizational level, but you can create teams inside your Uxcel Teams account. So for example, what you can have is that you can have your product team. Then as a product team, their core skill graph will be the product management skill graph. But if you're a designer or design manager that closely works with design team, you as a design lead or design manager can start slowly developing design skills for your product team. So for example, you can understand what are the design skills that your product team is missing that should be crucial for them in order to make your collaboration way better. And then you can start with a single click assigning learning material and courses that your product people can go through. And same goes with like vice versa. If you're a product manager that wants to work with designers to improve their product skills, you can identify what are the design skills of your product team, and then to slowly understand how you can make sure that you're developing the crucial skills that will make both of your teams collaborate way better. And this opens multiple opportunities because what you previously had to do, if you kind of look at a more traditional way, is that you had to wait for your manager or maybe to find some mentor that would help you learn some specific skills that you're lacking. So imagine you're working in a team of 20 designers or 20 product managers, and you don't have a single clue who is good at certain skill and from whom you can actually learn something new. If we take a look at, for example, my skill graph, what I can see from these specific data metrics is that I could improve my user research skills. But for example, what I can see is that Nadia is really good in user research. So instead of me thinking from like who from my team can maybe help me understand or learn something new when it comes to user research as a specific skill category, I can find out that Nadia is really good in user research. And then I can make sure that I reach out proactively to Nadia and ask her, hey, Nadia, would you like to dedicate one session per month or one session bi-weekly? So I can ask you anything about user research. You can help me understand more and how I can improve my skills way better. And this kind of gives you even broader opportunities because the true power of UXL comes when you use the skill data that you have about yourself or your team and then start taking actions on top of them. So one of our team's customers, Fujitsu, they created a system where they created a kind of like structured way into how you're developing your specific skills. So I'll take myself as an example again. So I'm not that good in user research, right? My manager comes to me and tells me, hey, Lazar, right now you are 30 out of 100 at user research. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 months? How do you see that you're improving your user research skills in the next 3 months? Then, what my manager can do is that they can go to the assignments, they can create assignment, they can make sure that they're assigning to me specific courses or learning materials that are focused on user research. And on top of this, what they can do is that they can make sure that my team and that my manager is seeing that I am actually developing the crucial skills that they have. What I just saw is that I'm not sharing the screen that I should. So let me just reshare my screen again. Uh, uh, this one. So sorry for this minor bug, but this is basically what I have been talking about when it comes to UXL teams and the data that you actually see about your entire team skills and how you can get a snapshot of who from your team is actually great in specific skills, whether it is PM or UX, right? So to come back to the topic of what I was sharing is imagine myself being not so good at user research. What you as a lead or manager can do if you have someone that is maybe lacking specific skill category is that with a simple click you can create assignments for these team members that may need to improve their skill sets, and then you can create tailored paths for them to develop specific skills that they're missing. So what I would do as a manager is I will sit with Lazar and ask him, hey Lazar, at the moment, these are your skill categories. These are your existing skills that you have. What I believe as your manager is that you need to improve user research a bit. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 months when it comes to user research? Then we can create an actionable plan of how we can develop user research skills. Once the 3 months pass, then I can start assigning specific, then I can assign your Excel pulse again in order to see how they improved in user research, or maybe dive into specific uh, other skill categories, maybe not user research, but interaction design or something like this. And this kind of applies with PM as well. So if you have some designer that is closely working with product management team, then you can assign specific courses for specific product management skills in order to make sure that you are developing product skills for your designers and vice versa. If you have product managers, then you can assign design courses to them and at the same time track how they're improving specific design skills that are needed for their role and what they're doing. So, with this in mind, it shouldn't overwhelm and you shouldn't overwhelm your people as a designer, right? So if you want to build cross as a manager, if you want to build these cross department skills, you should focus on specific use cases that they have within your company. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, imagine that you are a designer that is closely working with a data team. They shouldn't have fully filled in product management skill graph. They should have their core skills mapped out as designers, but if they're closely collaborating with the data team, you as a manager can actually work with them on developing data analytics skills. If they're working with the engineering team as a designer, you can develop technical proficiency and product development. If they're working with marketing or they need to explain to their managers or anyone else that is closely tied with business, then you as a designer can make sure that you are developing business strategy skills, understanding unit economics, understanding how design influences the business, what are the core metrics that you need to track. So you are technically preparing your team and yourself for a specific use case that you as a designer or you as a product manager can have. And also, this goes vice versa. You're a product manager, and this is your core skill graph. But if you're closely collaborating with design team on a specific project or maybe specific task, at any given time, you can see what are the design skills that you may need for this project, and then you can start slowly taking action by having these bite-sized interactive and micro-learning lessons to make sure that you're developing the crucial skills that you have. Even with that, by having all of these kind of like data analytics and everything when it comes to skill analytics that we have on the platform, what you can do is again, you can find who is the best in specific skill category, right? So, for example, this is Colin. Colin is awesome in product leadership. I need to improve my product leadership skills. Then I'm going to reach out to Colin to find out how I can maybe have peer mentorship meetings with Colin to make sure that I'm developing product leadership as a core category that I need to improve, because this will help me improve my collaboration with the product team as a designer and potentially even growing further as a business professional, right? But on top of this, what you can also do with Uxcel is maybe you can kind of have a little shortcut and understand who from your team is actually great in specific skills, right? So if you want to understand who is the best in UX, who is the best in PM, you can find out where they are in terms of the squad, what part of the team they are, and then maybe reach out to them by understanding, for example, hey, who is the best in Figma? I want to learn Figma. I can see that Kate from Uxcel is really good in Figma, so maybe I can reach out to Kate and see how I can learn some specific Figma related activities from Figma that I can actually apply to my day-to-day work. And to kind of like wrap it up for this short demo presentation, this kind of gives the benefit, and this is the reason why we want to opt in to grow beyond design. So on one end, you can have courses, you can have all the assets that you need to learn specific things that would be helpful for you. But ultimately, what you would do just by having courses is that you would collect certifications that you either share it with your hiring managers, peers within the company, or anything else, and that would be it. You would just basically collect a bunch of certificates. But now with Uxcel, not only that you can track how you're improving your skills that you need to grow in your role, ultimately you will be able to understand what are the cross-department skills that you need to build in order to be a better working professional, and then ultimately to become the most valuable person in the room. If you're collaborating with product team, you can develop specific product skills for your specific use case that you have within a company, so you can make sure that you can actually contribute in way more than just design. Yes, you can create and you can provide an output to a kick-ass design project, but on top of this, you can actually create product requirement documents and work with your product team on how you can actually how you can implement all of the design changes that you actually want to build that you worked on your product, or vice versa. So this is technically kind of like one of the use cases of how you can bridge specific gaps that you have within your UX and PM team. But ultimately, one thing that we're building as well, and it should be live next week together with the launch. Sadly, I don't have a fully functional demo to kind of show you yet, but I'm just going to give you a quick sneak peek of how it is going to work. So what you may have seen is that we introduced a specific feature called AI tutor, besides translations, of course. So whenever you are reading a lesson, whether you are reading the theory or whether you are going through the quiz, when you actually click on AI Tutor, it will kind of give you specific options on simplifying or making the content more practical. So what you can see right now is that we have two options, which is simplify this explanation or simplify this lesson, or give me a bulletproof option to kind of understand, hey, this is the core that I need from this lesson if I maybe don't have 5 minutes to dedicate this day. We are going to introduce two more capabilities besides simplification and bullet point breakdown, which is explain me by specific role and explain me by specific industry. So if you're learning design concepts, what you can do, what you will be actually able to do is that you could click a button, explain me this design concept as I am a product manager. So basically, UXL lessons that are focused on design will be translated to you to be more digestible as a product manager. Or if you are learning, or if you're a product manager that is learning something specific about design, explain me this in a specific manner that can be applied to the specific industry, which will give you even more digestible way into how you can make sure that you are learning the way you want to. So for example, let's say that you are a product manager, you are going through specific design course and specific design exercise. You can click on AI Tutor. You can choose explain me this design topic as I am a product manager. You will get the output from the AI Tutor. And on top of this, what you will be able to do is to click now, explain me this specific lesson and how I can apply it in the financial industry. So this is kind of why we want to bridge the gap between UXPM is on one end, what you traditionally had is the siloed way of learning. If you wanted to learn PM as a designer, you would have to go through their traditional language, seeing like a huge PM based theory, understanding the words that you may not understand what they are. But ultimately, what you will be able to do is on your Excel is translating this as a specific role and how it can be applied to a specific industry. Combining this with your Excel themes, specifically when we go here, is understanding how both of your teams, whether you are a product manager, product management team, or design team, then you will be able to make sure, as a, for example, design manager, to work with your product management team on how they can understand design concepts better. Or if you're a design team that needs to understand, or if you're a product team that needs to understand design concepts better, or vice versa, you can also simplify the entire learning, right? So this gives you a way to not spend or not dedicate 3 to 6 months to understand the gist of something that you want to learn that you need to apply in your day-to-day work. Instead, you can truly understand what are the skills that I need, what are maybe the cross-department skills that I need, and then start working towards acquiring these skills and explaining the complex topics as I am a designer or as I'm a product manager. So having this in mind, this is basically what we are trying to do. The release of PM and AI learning experience is actually coming in a week. So on 12th of August, we are officially going to launch these features, which is 1 week away. And you will have a chance to invite your product teams or product peers, or maybe as a designer, you can start slowly tackling the product related topics in order to make sure that you're developing the crucial skills that you need to make you the most valuable person in your team and in your company as well. So this is it for this short office hours. And if you have any questions, now it is time to write and then to discuss about it. You're muted, Sophia.
Thank you. So, yeah, we have some questions already. So let's get started. Um, when it comes to skill graphs, is the end goal for the PM to see the strengths and skills for everyone on the team, as in they'll be able to see other people's or all people's skills?
Yes, so depending technically what you want to see, you can see all skills, which kind of like we provide by default, but the goal is again to dive into the specifics, right? So as I mentioned at the beginning, you will be able to see the core product skills that every team needs to have. And then you, as someone who wants to develop, for example, cross-department skills, you can choose which skills you want to develop. I mean, you can complete every single course or every single lesson, every single project and everything and to build your skill graph. But this is not the point, right? So you want to make sure that you are the strongest in the best, what I like to call skill combinations that you need for your job, right? So again, if for example you're closely working with data teams, you are a designer, you should have your core design skills, but on top of this, you don't need to dive, for example, into product leadership or something like this. Make sure that you first are developing data analytics and then thinking what could be the next steps and how I can maybe develop specific skills that can bring me one step closer to, for example, climbing the career ladder or improving the work of my team that I'm leading with cross-department teams that I'm closely collaborating, right? So that's why we're giving kind of like a snapshot of all the skills. And the reason for this is, yes, you will be able to see kind of like the reason is to understand who from your team is best at certain skill and how you can utilize it, right? So for example, if Sophia is awesome in visual design, I'm bad at visual design, I can just approach to Sophia and ask her, hey Sophia, can we have meetings on a bi-weekly basis? So I can kind of be in your shadow to learn how you're doing visual design, right? So having access to these skills will give you kind of more clarity into how you can manage your team better or how you can make sure that you are learning from your peers the proper way besides just utilizing Uxcel. Because on one end, Uxcel gives you the courses, gives you the content that is engaging and fun and still like with like fluff free, let's call it like that. But on top of this, you have the skill data that you can utilize in order to make your entire team or your entire organization way better.
Thank you, India, for the question. Hopefully, this helps. Um, Another one we have from Steven is, do you guys plan to have the AI tutor on a whole lesson, not just the exercise? Yeah.
Um, we can put it in the backlog. I'll have to check with the product team to see like what's to say there. But ultimately, what we have identified so far is that usually our users use it by lesson. The reason for this is by exercise is because when they go to the player mode, what we call internally, so when you open the quiz and go through the questions, when you select a question, and if it is correct or incorrect, then you can use the AI tutor just for that single question and single exercise. So the way we implemented it right now is to be more kind of friendly for busy professionals, not to digest the entire course, but actually to dive into the specifics. Because if you know 90% of the course and already understand what the course is all about, it is maybe way better to spend slightly more time, maybe 1 or 2 minutes more, to that 10% that you do not understand. So you can basically make it even simplified, bullet point breakdown in the future once we introduce explain it by role, by industry, real world example, which will be kind of the fifth module as well that we're going to introduce soon. Um, it kind of gives you more flexibility into how you can learn specifics that you may need more clarity on. So that's why we focused on implementing it on an exercise level. But yeah, if it gets a lot of upvotes on our feedback portal, and you can actually go to feedback.uxl.com and vote for which features you would like to see, yeah, the team is definitely going to tackle
Thank you. We have a few more questions, but let me pull up one that's interesting. And um, just a second. Oh, sorry. So there was a discussion on how are we going to use this in order to uh, uplift people to work on their skills rather than get them pulled from projects. Just pulling out one of the questions we had in this short little discussion. But perhaps, Lazar, you can tell them how other teams use it, and it's been mostly a positive experience for everyone, rather than somebody getting pulled off the team or for the project.
it. Yeah. So um, like at some point of like at sometimes learning can still feel traditional, right? You think that you need to dedicate 3 hours or something similar, sorry, 3 months to actually complete the course, right? So what is kind of the standard in the learning industry, specifically where Uxcel operates as a company and as a platform, is that on average, course completion rates for these traditional platforms like Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, etc., the average course completion rate is 3 to 5%. And I mean, that's the reason because you have to go through a lot of videos, a lot of content that you as a professional do not have time to dedicate to, right? With UXL, it is way different, and our average course completion rate is around 50%. Specifically, UX Design Foundations, which is one of the biggest courses and most completed courses, the average completion rate for UX Design Foundations course is 78%. Um, that's kind of the way why we built the learning experience as we have, is that you don't need to treat learning as your day-to-day job. When it comes to specifically assignments and how you can assign courses in your Excel, you can set your own deadline, right? So, for example, hey, Lazar, here is the course that you need to complete, and I'll give you 6 months to do so, right? So, let me actually just share my screen so you can have better visibility into it, right? So, app.uxl.com. Sophia, can you just tell me if the screen is visible?
Yep, it's working.
Awesome. So, when we go to the assignments, what you can see here is that let me, for example, assign the course AI prompts, which is the new course that we released, and I'm going to assign this to a specific individual, right? So, for example, I'm going to assign it to Lazar, I'm going to assign it to Sophia, or maybe I'm just going to assign AI prompts foundation to the entire product team. So what happens is that I can select a due date, right? So let's say that it's like the entire product team needs to complete this course by the 1st of November. When I assign this course on Uxcel, so I'm going to publish this assignment right now, what I can then do is that I can track completions. What you usually have to do with kind of like traditional LMS platforms is that these numbers are binary, right? So it is either completed or not completed. What we did with the assignments is that you will be able to track the progress throughout the course. So for example, what you will be able to see, and let me actually share some of the previous examples, is for example, Alessia is completed 50%. So basically, she completed half of the entire course. And what you, as a peer or a manager, can do is that you can actually approach them and ask them, hey, are you maybe struggling with the course? Is there anything that I can potentially help you with? Are you finding it a bit hard? If you're at the moment packed with work, how I can, maybe we should increase the deadline, or maybe we should move the due date to be, for example, on the 1st of January, etc. So the entire kind of like point of using the assignments and assigning courses to others is that you need to have like collaboration with them, you need to be honest with them, and you need to talk with them. Like most of our team's customers, and those companies are Microsoft, Fujitsu, Deloitte, big financial companies like Tabby, Banco Guayaquil, etc. What they usually do is that they share everything in collaboration with their peers. Like what you usually have on check-ins and one-on-one meetings with teams is creating plans, and they create plans around UXL. Like, hey, these are the courses that I, as a manager, believe that you can complete in the next 3 months. What do you think about it? Is it overwhelming? Do you want to lower it? How we can make sure that you are developing the mission critical skills? Then you're using these check-in meetings to show how the skills grew over time. You were here, you were at the point A, now you're at the point B. So it's basically utilizing the data and making sure that showcasing to them that these assignments actually work. So this is how other companies are using it and how they're making them feel that learning shouldn't be obligatory. Instead, it is there for them and showcasing them directly how their skills are growing in real time. On top of this, what we have seen is that one of our customers called Veil Systems, they obtained 19 core certificates in less than 2 months, while their entire team was fully packed on deadlines. So the reason with this gamified learning, and you can basically dedicate 5 minutes a day to learn something new, is the reason why UXL has quite big completion rates. And on top of this, Josh, who is leading their entire design organization at Wellsys, he's basically working with their team, setting due dates, setting deadlines, showcasing how they're growing their skills, and basically being the kick-ass manager that they truly deserve. So this is kind of in short how you can make sure that these assignments like do not feel obligatory as they usually do.
Thank you, Lazar. And again, India, thank you for the question. That will be it for the Q&A. If you do have any questions afterwards, feel free to join our Discord, discord.gg/uxl, where you can get in touch directly with Lazar and me anytime. Yeah, with that being said, also thank you all for staying on for the whole demo. If again, hopefully this was helpful for you, but you can always join us there. You will also be able to get in touch with Lazar directly if you think that UXL is something you would like to use within your team. We will be sending out the recording and we will include a little feedback form for you. So feel free to let us know your impressions of the session and what else you would like to see us do in the next office hours. Lastly, you're watching us on YouTube, so if you have a minute, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you stay in the loop for future sessions. Before we head out, Lazar, is there anything else you would like to tell everyone?
Mm, Not necessarily, except mark the calendar. 12th of August is the big release. We're going to have a lot of surprises for you on the release date. So yeah, make sure to follow your emails. And of course, if you would like to test out UXL Teams, we actually have a free trial for UXL Teams. So for 14 days, you can invite your team. They can go through the courses. You can see the skill mapping firsthand. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to show you the platform around and share how other teams actually use it to develop their entire organizations. So yeah, that's mainly it.
Thank you, everyone, once again, and see you next time.